I guess we're gonna start. What I'm doing today is recording, well, not recording, prepping a video that I want to record about my agentic coding workflow. I realized that actually there's a lot of value in actually sharing how I do things instead of just like talking meta about it. That's actually really hard for me because I tend to skip over the part that like not everybody knows what I do. Actually, nobody knows what I do, and then realizing that people just like think I'm a yapper or or something like that. So, despite my streams, it probably is much easier to digest and to just like give a clear view of the current techniques that I have because I think there's a lot of value in those. I kind of missed the coach with all the initial kind of AI coding and explaining things there. So this time I'm going to try to get in there pretty quickly and give like a pretty nice presentation. I saw that some people started doing slides and kind of stuff like that. So I'm working on my agentic coding workflow slides. I will reuse this video after that to use a transcript to refine those slides. And I'm very happy to take any kind of feedback into things that you might want to learn more about. I already know that like the first part of my whole presentation here, ideation, is maybe the part that I should keep for the end because I want to probably jump right into the meat of how I program. So that's maybe the first thing I'm going to do is move the ideation part to the end, although it actually is maybe necessary for the first part. So I can jump right into the ideation part, and then the meta part of it, I will move towards the final part, which is, in a way, it's the part that I'm most interested in, right? It's like, how do you become creative enough to really leverage what agents give you these days? Because I think that's the maybe the most important differentiator, right? Is like creativity and taste is what will give you, I think, really unlocks this world we're in, because ideas are now the key of everything. So ideas being the key of really leveraging agents, I think, because execution, now you really can delegate a lot of the execution to models themselves. I realize as I'm talking about this, that I maybe should tackle in the creativity part, and then maybe what does this mean for software engineering, right? Because like, what are our skills worth? Where is this all going? I think is an interesting discussion to have. I don't know if it's like probably a topic for its own video, where I am just a little bit more free form, and this one focuses on, actual techniques. So the creativity and the software engineering implications, that might be something that I could leave for another video. So the first part is in the ideation is, of course, having ideas of what to build, which leaves us straight into the meta. But what I want to show here in the brainstorm part is that you can literally use, and this is mostly using O3, researching any kind of stuff. And concrete examples here, I mean, I have a gazillion million examples, and I don't know if I should reuse these examples or if I should make up new ones, fresh ones for the video. But for example, one thing that I wanted to do before I started this video was to build a theme selector for my UI, right? Which because this theme kind of clashes, and actually I should switch to my slides, to my slide view. There we go. Sorry, I wasn't showing that. So these are my slides that I'm preparing. I have ideation, design, prototypes, tools, workflows, techniques, creativity, software engineering, I'm going to call it. I don't know if keeping them at these like one single words is like great, but it just like looks fucking cool on slides. So we'll see about that. So the first thing, researching libraries, researching algorithm, combining pieces of code, adding features to code, those are all things you can do with O3. Maybe I should start, before I go into a little section where I do ideation workflows, right? And the ideation workflow is starting to an idea, doing some quick research / brainstorming with O3. Then potentially doing a deep research to really explore a topic, potentially doing a deep research to start writing some code. So this is maybe using deep research as a coding agent. And right, using O3 as a planner. I do this less and less, to be honest. I do this when I have a really, really clear picture of what I want to do, or I want to add something to an existing project and refactoring. So this is mostly for refactoring existing projects. So the quick idea, the brainstorming, right? Like you could start with a quick idea. For example, this morning I wanted to prep the theme of Kitty to match kind of the background of this video, right? Because the color kind of doesn't fully match. So what I did is literally, I didn't use O3 for it, but I used O3 for a part of the feature to build, right? Like often you will start with an idea which could be a complete tool, or it could be complete apps, maybe is a better way to put it. But it could also be adding features to existing apps, right? And I don't know why it like kind of didn't do dots. There's a whole section about ideas coming at the end, right? Because I don't want to get too meta. I want to jump straight into the meat. So, concrete example. Theme selector for Kitty to match the slide background color. But I'll also use it for any kind of research on tools that I might want to use. Right? For example, how do I get the color of this background with a color picker? And here I can just go into chat OpenAI and say, how do I color pick a color on Linux X11 Ubuntu? So that might be a simple, obviously this is not agentic coding, but I'm kind of using an agent. If you consider an O3 an agent, which I actually do, I think O3 with its like tool calling and its like iteration and stuff for me is a coding agent. And because I web search, usually I get some pretty grounded, some pretty clever ideas or like resources. Here, the interesting thing about this query, and this is potentially a, man, is this Firefox adding this nonsense? The interesting thing here is when you do a search and you want to get into this agentic coding mindset is to basically always add how do I programmatically in Go, for example, right? So if I want to do this programmatically in Go, it basically you have an idea and then you say like, well, don't just tell me how to do it. Or if you were using a standard command line agent, I see more and more people using them as like kind of a shell replacement, which is great, right? You could say like, oh, convert these 7 files to PNG or whatever. But a really powerful way to take this a little bit further is to say like, write a program to do this, or like, how do I do this programmatically? Because it might give you ideas, but you can also incorporate it into existing tools that you have. So here's like gcolor3 or gpick or a pure command line thing, xcolor, and Interesting. Straight into clips. That looks good, right? Cargo install X color. But then the thing is, how do I do this programmatically in Go? Then this is going to research and potentially already write a program, right? Like maybe this is all I need. And then basically I used O3 as a coding agent. So this is maybe something you can do quick brainstorming with O3 is like research something, but also ask, right, do it programmatically in my language, right? Use O3 as a coding agent, not just like as a research agent or like logic agent or so. You have to learn to be creative with all these tools and how they behave, because more and more they are agentic per se, right? Like ChatGPT was already agentic for quite a while. So here a concrete example, which I might, just try out. So one thing in terms of the workflow that I'm going to go down to workflows is have a prototype YOLO repository. And my prototype YOLO repository is called Labs. It's called GoGo Labs. Labs. There we go. And here, what I can do is I can just create a apps, or like this is more like an experiments color picker. So I can very quickly go in there and just try out whatever O3 did, copy paste it in here, go run it, and then see what happens. Cannot use, so I can potentially at this point use O3 as a coding agent. This is where it starts to not be all that great, right? But also what is pretty interesting usually with these things is that you already have like some kind of reasoning, and this allows you, even if it doesn't work, to learn something from it. So this is maybe something to put into my, let me make this a little bit smaller. Quick research, O3, use it as a starting point learning experience. Use it as a coding tutor agent, right? Because a good way to become really, really efficient at agentic coding is knowing your fundamentals. So this is kind of part of the last part, which is about software engineering in general, is knowing fundamentals. The domain allows you to build the tools to keep the agent on track. So we'll get back to tools. It allows you to design better prompts. It allows you to do quicker cleanup. So we'll come back to what cleanup means in this whole context. And yeah, just knowing the fundamentals allows you to like basically cut through the chaff. So these like 5 minutes of maybe spending time to examine the domain might be really worth it, even though they feel so slow, because you can one-shot things in seconds with an agent, or like a seconds of mental workload. So 5 minutes of mental work seem like a lot and potentially pull you out of the vibe mode, but they can save you then easily 30 minutes to an hour cleaning up after the agent, just because you didn't understand and it made the wrong architecture decision, and then suddenly you have to understand what's going on. So really, really useful to use them as learning agents. And in order to do learning agents, so maybe I'll have to clean these slides up, but I'll do that based on the video. In terms of the workflows, what I'm going to add in the workflow is this agents as coding tutors, right? And one part of the workflow is like save the resources you researched as part of the project, ask the LLM or the agent to write courses. So we'll get back to that. And keeping this data to, I mean, it's useful to steer the LLM as well, right? So learning resources, because the LLM also has to learn, is always good. But also, it's useful for you, right? Useful for prompting the agent as well. Useful in the long term, depending on reusability of the topic. So this is starting to get like a little bit meta, potentially. I'll get back to that, which is about frameworks and building up your ecosystem over time, because it's so easy to build so much software that keeping it on track, you kind of have to think of your software as an ecosystem. Think of your software as an ecosystem more than a set of like individual projects. So moving from project-based thinking to ecosystem-based thinking. And an ecosystem can be a set of frameworks and then vibed transient tools off of it. But it can also be a mindset and a strong opinionated take and choice of base technologies. It can be a collection of prompts that you keep reusing over and over. I don't know why I'm writing this out loud, because it's going to be on video, and I'm going to use this vibe coder tool from yesterday to do video analysis to help me actually prepare transcripts for, or like scripts for a educational video. So this is actually something for the ideation, right? Is like, as you are doing something and you find yourself having a tool idea, write it down, reflect about your own personal workflow and find opportunities for tooling. I just had another idea, but it's gone. Well, yeah, ideas are fleeting, and you should capture them. So these are things, I'm going to skip over things that I don't really do day to day, but sometimes I use voice mode. And this is something I want to build. So this is kind of like an idea, right? And I haven't got a workflow to do this in or rather, it's been a really long time since I used Obsidian to keep my ideas, and I feel that like my Obsidian time is coming back. So I will put the date into these ideas, which is maybe an important thing to mention, is that storing things by date is really useful. So an idea that I had here is make a memory DB MCP for project ideas and link to ChatGPT. So I don't fully know how to do that. So that's why it's an idea, right? And actually, this is like, I can show, maybe for the context of the stream, less so for the context of the video, memory DB MCP, might as well do it right live here. And I'm going to go to ChatGPT, and I'm going to do this quick research, right? So one of the things that I put in here is that the thing we want to do is a quick research. Can I show like a table of contents? Table of contents. Yeah, whatever. It's quick research with O3, right? It's like, make a memory DB MCP to be used with the voice version of ChatGPT. How can I do that? And as you might notice, I literally put in what I want to build. How can I fucking remove this? So I can see from the searches that it just like is searching for some weird stuff. So maybe I should have put remote MCP in there. But a really important thing is like let the AI code it is, right, really like don't overthink any of it. The reason to not overthink any of it is that because you're doing research, you don't want to constrain your research. You just want to say like, I want to learn about something that's pretty vague and please tell me, because if you knew how to do it, then you would ask something else, right? Here, my intent is to have a DB MCP. If I were to start doing like, oh, I want a remote MCP that uses SQLite and Golang that is hosted on my server, I might find like a better plan, but I might miss the opportunity of learning something new about the topic. Otherwise, you lose the opportunity to learn some new things. And learning new things is a really, really key part of building, of getting some good agentic ideas is learning to discover, or I don't know how to call that, and keep your prompts only the intent. So this is where the midwit concept comes in, which I have pinned to my X because I find it so crucial to really understand and to really embrace. It's this thing here is like a reason that often non-developers are so much better prompters than programmers is that they only state the intent. And at the end of the day, the intent is what is important, right? Like if I want to build an app that allows me to choose my kitty themes, I don't care how it does it. I don't care what it looks like. I just want to choose a kitty theme, right? So in my case, it did like a first version and the first version kind of sucked. So I asked it to like redo it. This version still kind of sucks, right? It's like not perfect. And it's like weirdly aligned and there's like a double help page. And it like jumps from the layout. And I kind of don't care at this moment. Like I'm not asking for like make a really pretty polished UI to allow me to choose my kitty theme. I'm just like, let me freaking preview my kitty theme and, you know, let me launch a kitty with that theme. Even though I hope it hasn't overridden the right one. So prompting with intent is really, really crucial. If there's one thing to take away from all of this, and maybe I'll make a slide here, is XXX main takeaways, prompt with intent, right? Because we literally don't care about anything else. Why is it not doing a new slide? What the heck? Why is it not doing a new slide? That is freaking weird. It has like a little dot in here. Am I missing something? All right, well, I guess there's a bug. Where were we? So we were memory DB set up, right? Like I could have like removed the MCP even. And here it's going to give me a list of existing MCPs and I'm like, oh, this shit is all like pretty complicated. But also what I'm maybe interested in is like, oh, how do I expose that to my, to the online version of ChatGPT? And I kind of know is like remote MCP support in ChatGPT, which, you know, might be at this point I turn on my technical brain and I've kind of explored this stuff. And I might have done a secondary research, right? Like how to use external MCPs in the web version of ChatGPT or the mobile app, for example. And at this point, do a more technical research, which is the workflow that maybe I should do a concrete example of the workflow. So one workflow example, scratch an itch with O3. So notice when an itch should be scratched. in this case, I was thinking when I was having this idea. So when a random idea pops into your head and you have a bit of time. So I'll do that like in Starbucks at the, at the end line. Although I don't go to Starbucks, but if I'm waiting somewhere and I have like a random idea, I'll just like open my mobile app and just put it in there and kind of, just close it. Maybe it'll be in my history, like the same way I did here. I'll be like, I'm just going to put this in here, and then it will show up in this ridiculous, like super annoying list because I can't find shit in here and I don't find the way of storing that all that great. Although I should, I don't know. I don't know where to file those. Should this go onto our idea? Should this go into their own project? I don't know how to do it, which is why I want this memory MCP in the first place, right? So custom MCP connectors are available to Pro Team, Enterprise, Plus, and Free cannot add them. Plus for Plus Pro, MCP is not available here. MCP spec style metadata. Interesting. What is that? Add the connector in ChatGPT Web, open settings, connectors from your avatar menu. I have to keep myself on track for this stream to not start doing that, but I can't resist. I absolutely can't resist. Settings, connectors, create new connector, and then MCP server URL. I trust this application, authentication OAuth, and then, all right, so that is pretty interesting. The root of your MCP project, publicly reachable, and Grok or Tailscale. Tailscale? Can Tailscale expose? Can Tailscale do ngrok kind of stuff? Expose a port of my laptop, which is on my private Tailscale network. You see the idea, right? Have an idea, put it into O3. Maybe I'll use it, maybe not. And actually, it's a really good example for people who are watching to see how I do it, like live, right? Open a chat, run, take new connector, ask a normal question. So yeah, this is interesting, where I kind of want to have OAuth on my MCP. There's a ChatGPT deep research connector, latest big blah 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 blah. There's connectors in ChatGPT, MCP. So any example of OAuth plus external SSE MCP in Golang. So here I'm looking for Golang stuff. I have my own MCP framework. I don't think I added OAuth to it. I might have a branch where I added it, but I never got to test it. And then Tailscale has its own ngrok style called Tailscale Funnel. It lets you publish a service that's running privately on a Tailscale only laptop to a HTTPS public, blah, blah, blah. So here I can basically start seeing what this does, right? And start using your funnel, HTTPS certificates, enable funnel. Okay. Funnel is ready to use. Okay, cool. So this, we learned something, right? And then what I used to do in Obsidian, so this is maybe part of my workflow as well. Over here is like workflows. I don't know why I put this in here. Example, no. Store ideas plus research in Obsidian, for example. And what I might do is go to my daily. This is what I used to do before, but I will actually start doing it again, right? Which I'm going to call O3 research, maybe. And then here, the date again, which is always useful to kind of, for me at least, to have a sense of like where in my life, like what was the time frame in which I did that. And if it's like 3 years old, I'll be like, yeah, maybe not all that useful anymore. So here I'll put in Tailscale funnel. And this is maybe something that I should, write a script for, which is an idea that I wrote down many, many times. So I'm not going to do that right now. O3 research, tail scale, funnel, and then just paste that. Although this is also really fast to do, but you see how you can get like fractal by putting every idea that you have in there. But actually, you know what? Maybe I should just start doing that. Just to show you what you can do with AMP code. So I might go into my labs repo, right? Like open AMP and then say, make a tool called command apps add research that adds that asks for a title, use charm bracelet library. So maybe being such a weird name, I'm going to put it into quotes, and then creates a I think this is where it is, inbox. No, I'm going to say like research. Then here, YYYMMDD, XXX, and then title.md, XXX being incremental number. So here I'm going into details because I do have a clear idea of how I want it to behave. And then allows me to paste some markdown to it. Also add a -- append, which allows me to add to a specified or select with research for that day. That's about all I want. Like, this is not clearly specified, right? Like, there is still a lot of room for freedom here, but I also don't want to brainstorm this out further. This is just like what came into my head, where it was like, okay, this is actually what I want. This is my intent. And I didn't really specify the entire intent, which is like, you know, pasting clips from O3 in there, but I hope that add research plus the vault plus like kind of the idea gives it enough context, and then the agent here says how I should build it in Go. So I know if I create it in this labs repo, it will allow me to do that. This was another example of like how quickly you can build stuff. This here was like from idea to AMP for a little command line utility that I find really useful, right? Like, and so some of these utilities I can show you that really have transformed my life is that if something's running on port 8080, say if I run this is running on port 8080, now I can use this lsofwho to ask, you know, what's running on port 8080, show me the parents so that I know who started it, and then allow me to kill it, along with a command line flag to actually kill it. Absolutely useful. Took me about, you know, 10 seconds of thought to think about, maybe 2 minutes. And now I have it, and it's like the best tool ever. And I can give it to an agent to actually kill a running process, right? So this is kind of like an important part of the workflows, which is if I open the slides again, the workflow. So not just the techniques here, the concrete techniques for killing servers. So let me go here, is like use lsofwho to kill running servers. But in terms of the workflow, is like if an agent starts going awry, notice what tool it might have needed to not do that, right? And so I very often have the issue that an agent is going to do the wrong thing. So is going to start a server, in the background or not, and then it's going to start the next one. It's going to say like, well, the port is used, so I'm not going to do it, and then it starts to kill the previous one using like ps grep, but it's like running under a different name, and it's like just basically not able to kill it, and it will waste quite a bit of context and tool calls just like trying to kill the server that it started. While if I tell it, if you want to kill a server that's running on a port, just use lsofwho, the port number. But there's other techniques here. It's like, right, if the port is taken, then use the next free one and print that in the output so that the agent knows. So because 8080 is such like an often used port, and what I do, I now added this base library snippet that basically if 8080 is taken, it will try 8081, it will try 8082, etc. And then it will tell, you know, on the command line output, like, oh, I use this port. At this point, the agent knows that it's been using this port. So those techniques are pretty useful. We do now have an add research tool, right, which allows me to append that stuff. I wonder if I actually gave it the right path, and if it hard-coded it, it did the right thing. It has a research thing, so I probably created a few here to just test. No, it didn't. So I don't know if it tested it or if it just built it. So I'm going to say test it, allow taking input from std in as well, but still show the UI. Allow it to also take a -f flag to attach one or multiple files. Allow it to take -m from the command line directly. Yeah. So at this point, it's going to start recompiling this. So maybe I should quickly run this to see add research is running, and then I can say like foobar, and then add your markdown content. And did it create it? Oops. Oh shit, did I cancel this? My terminal slipped. Yeah, and it did, right? 001 foobar. Now I can run it again. Test, foo, and I will have 02 foobar, hopefully. This is how fast you can create tools to just scratch itches that you had, right? Like this add research tool, I can see probably myself using it all the freaking time. So could not open a new PTY, so I'm going to say use tmux. So that's really useful for PTYs, right? Like that's a technique that I have in here. Tmux, really useful for doing PTY related stuff. Yeah, so then it will, you know, it will do a new session, and then it can like basically interact with that tool, and then kind of see the captured output. Really, really cool. Right, and then I can do that. I wonder, for this tool, can I search to existing tools? So if I do append, it allows me to select this guy from here. If I, so one thing that I might want to add, and this is another technique which is pretty cool. Let me go back to techniques. Use a to-do file that is pulled by the agent. So this is cheap way of doing task queuing, right? Test all the new features. That's cool. Get language from extension. I'm not sure. Process attached files. Like, what is it going to do here? We'll see. Maybe we should add metadata as well. So let me quickly just add this in here. So to do MD is like specify date default today. Search by name. Add metadata YAML preamble. So those are ideas that maybe I shouldn't build today, right? But now they're going to be in that folder. And then if I one day want to go back to a certain tool, I'll just have a list of things to do. So keep a sketchbook with ideas. And then here I can also say, keep a to-do MD next to each individual project tool you build to quickly get back on track. The other one is like, you can of course point the agent at a project and say like, you know, suggest things to add to this project, which is always kind of cool, but usually it comes from like scratching itches, right? So this was showing the tmux technique, which is really, really powerful. It's really nice. And because the tmux is running in the background, the window is always going to be exactly as big as the tool currently requested, I think. So I went a little bit on a tangent, but now I have an ad research tool, which is awesome. I love it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say add a flag to clip from clipboard. And here I have to be a little bit careful because this is stuff that I found to be... Oh, I'm in the labs. Oh, I'm in Pinocchio. So I'm going to go to Corp, Pinocchio, and then I'm going to say clipboard, RG clip. And then I'm going to use this package here. Prompting, you can be pretty fucking loose here. Maybe I should commit at some point, right? And I have a little agent prompt to do git commit messages, which is something I'm experimenting with. And also, like, I obviously forgot to commit the previous ones. So maybe I should actually change that because it overwrote all of these previous commit messages. But I can also at the end say, like, you know, just like, please do a single git commit message for everything up front. And the way I do these commit messages is to show you the agent MD. The way this works is here I have a bunch of guidelines for my coding in this repository. It's grown over time. It looks pretty long, but those are all things that actually do have were prompted by, I didn't sit down and started writing it. Those were things I added time and time over as I was building, as I was running into projects, into problems. So this might be something in terms of the workflows. If something keeps happening, add a section to agent MD. Don't try to be too clever here, right? Don't try to be clever. Keep it short. Agent MD should be like bam, 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 bam. And so, for example, this concurrency guidelines thing here, I don't know if I should keep it in there. I have to think about how to manage the content that goes in there, especially when I start new projects. I reuse agent MDs from previous projects because they have all these guidelines. Like, I don't ask AMP to create one for me. Yeah, I have a bunch of ideas on how to do all of this. Obviously, I could now go on a tangent again, build myself a tool to create these, a tool that I've thought about quite a bit already. I'm not going to do that because otherwise we'll never finish. But here you see basically how I vibe code something. I don't even vibe code it. I just like have an itch that I want to scratch. And I'm pretty sure this ad research tool is going to become now part of my day-to-day workflow, right? And maybe what I also want to add to my to-do is add different types, research, ideas, etc. Obviously, add embeddings, vector, clever, agentic, search, those kinds of things might be useful as well, to just get ideas back out, get the full path of an idea using the library browser, maybe, get the content of a file into the clipboard, also very nice. So those maybe I'll add. So the metadata sounds a little bit complicated. Adding the research types is pretty easy for later. For next. Man, my grammar. Okay, this is a problem with xclep, right? Use xl-b, I think. Xclep, I think, hangs. Otherwise, use your tmux. That's the way X11 does clipboards is kind of weird. So that might be an issue here. So add flag for title. All these ideas are pretty good. Well, they're pretty good, pretty useful, I would say. So echo combined, I don't know why it's always asking me for that, because it's not able to parse the pipe. That's one of the issues with the names here. So it's doing all kinds of experiments, right? And then this comes back to one of the workflows over here is you want to have tools to do the feedback loop, right? They're the key to success. And so for CLI tools, this is pretty nice, right? Like CLI terminal tools are the easiest to feedback around, followed closely by REST APIs. Web development, the Playwright MCP, I think, is pretty useful. Things I've done in the past for web dev is execute JS over the Chrome debugger. So I would open a web page and then I would say, like, you can send JavaScript to Chrome and get the response back. And that's like your feedback loop that allows me to save tokens, because you do want to use the least tokens as possible, right? Because this allows you to stretch your session quite a bit. And if a tool only outputs 10 tokens versus 100, you can run it 10 times more often in a way. So I'm going to start committing this stuff because it is getting ridiculous. So I'm going to say combine all Git messages so far into a big one, because I actually haven't committed. Here I'm being a little bit more explicit in my prompt, because I think this is useful to give to the model why I haven't done that and how I want to combine them. Because now it will understand, oh, I'm going to combine them as if this was like the first commit. Let me see, where is our experiment with the oh, we're here, right? And then it's probably going to add a binary, git remove cached, add research. I'm doing cached because otherwise the agent might think that it has disappeared for some reason. So it has created a comprehensive git commit message, which is, however, in the root directory, most certainly. Right, so here I have like, I haven't built a tool yet to do this automatically, but I will one day. So I can just commit it like this. It's a YAML file. This allows me to like extract metadata out of it. So now I'm committing it, right? And oh, I built this color picker, which didn't work, right? Oh shit, we're already at tools in, and I was going to build an MCP for remote stuff. I'm not going to do that. We committed our git commit message, right? And now build the next things from command apps, add research to do MD. And so this way I can start accumulating ideas into this to-do MCP, to-do MD, and then just have them iterate on them. So this is maybe a technique that should be going in here. Use a to-do MD that's pulled by the agent. So that's already in there. Going back to our presentation, the ideation workflow, which I now have like a concrete example from and I might, when I record this video, just like do it from scratch. I might also just like select segments from this recording and revoice them or something like that. It's going to be like the first real YouTube video I do, not just streaming yapping. So hope it's not going to take me too long. The next thing we might want to do, right? It's like in terms of building an MCP with Go, you know, maybe at some point I should just like skip to a third-party MCP framework just because I like building my own so much. Maybe this isn't enough in this case. Maybe O3, because it's not able to close the feedback loop, maybe it just like hallucinated something in there that will really be problematic. At this point, what I could do is start using a deep research to actually gather all the information, gather all the framework and protocol specification and resources to build this OAuth-based remote MCP to be used in the ChatGPT web UI, right? So at this point, I am going to, maybe the context here, I'm not sure how deep researchers uses the previous context in the discussion. I don't fully know. I don't fully trust that it looks at most of it. So I'm going to restate my intent a little bit for deep research, which is like literally, I want to build this OAuth-based remote MCP to be used in the ChatGPT web UI, and then it might, I don't know if it has actually remembered that I want to do it in Golang with this framework. So I'm going to say use Golang and this. Often I don't respond to these questions, but here it might be interesting. Look at the MCP RFCs, especially around OAuth. Look potentially at examples in other languages. Tech stack, Golang. And specific to MCP, especially ChatGPT MCP. Usually I just type like dot and then I press enter because I don't care. So this is the second technique, which is once we have a pretty clear idea of how an architecture would look like, and we don't fully trust that a quick research does the full job, I will launch a deep research. And at this point, oh, holy shit, it does. This is the first time I see that where it asks a second follow-up question. Yes, 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 yes. I should have just typed yes, but here we can see it's like starting to do all the to-do MD, and because it has a feedback loop that it's now able to use with the tmux, and you can see in the tmux it actually interacts with the terminal UI, right? Which is quite. Oh, you see my second hand here, yeah. Which is quite fantastic. It's like really useful to build terminal UIs. I find that much more efficient than doing web UIs in a way, but then I'm terminal used, right? Although web UIs are nice because they just convey information a little bit easier than terminal UIs. But since Sonnet 4 can now really do some pretty good charm bracelet stuff, it's been a pleasure. It's really been a pleasure to do it. So as you can see, it now has a file picker. I do have a much better file picker that I might add in here, but for now, this is good enough, right? And so some session, and this is part of the cleanup workflow that I'm going to tackle, is that merge the results of agent sessions into existing code bases and use the opportunity to clean and streamline things, which is, for example, this file picker that I was talking about. And, you know, maybe I should just like use the opportunity that I'm recording this to show that. So for example, Jesus here, I wasn't able to control C it, right? So I'm going to go into the repo, and then is there a to-do MD here? There's no to-do. Make it signal control C killable for serve. Which I could spin off an agent and do it right now. Should I do that? I'll show the workflow to do that in a bit. So remind me that I should do this as part of the cleanup or part of the workspace manager tool that I have. So tools, build frameworks, CLI tools, feedback loops. This is under techniques. Where did I put this? Here, workspace manager. So show example for Jesus serve not being control C killable. One important idea in the ideation, when you write your ideas down, put every idea into the AI. Just let the AI code it. It's a muscle. So what is very important, capture as much context ambient information as needed to remember what the idea is about. And I already had an idea here to write down, which I already forgot, because it's very easy. It's very easy to think you wrote. You will remember your great insight or your great need, your itch you wanted to scratch. But often you'll end up looking at something and we'll call like add library select box, and you're like, the fuck does that mean, add library select box? And that's already like a good one. It's like search library filter is like an idea that I might have written down at the beginning because I was like using my library browser and was like, oh, it would be cool to have search. So I really like add search to library. And 3 months later, you look at that in your notes and you're like, I have no idea what this is about. So adding links like add links to ChatGPT chats, right? And then I really already notice in my, this is something I might add to my command apps add research to do, is ask for links. All right, check off things in to do MD. And yeah, it added like kind of all these features, right? It added a file browser with multi-selection. Jesus Christ, like, yeah, this is actually something that's pretty important for the technique as well, as like point the agent to existing libraries to avoid it recreating the world, right? Because you prompt it with intent, you might have the agent rebuild everything. So prompt with intent, then, and provide existing frameworks, libs you might have. Or for repeated stuff, put it in agent MD. This is starting to be like quite a lot of content, and I wonder if I should put it all into one video or if I should put it into smaller videos. I feel that like one big video is a great way to do it, as long as it's like not more than 30 minutes. I don't think I can cram any of this in 30 minutes, to be honest. Um, Maybe this simple little workflow that I showed with creating this ad research part, right? So it like implemented this, and now I'm going to reuse, the simple commit. I have a bug in my ZSHRC that I have to like run this twice. I'm not fully sure why. As you can see, we have everything in one single main.go. So that's another part of the techniques of the workflow that you wanna have is split things early, use design patterns that avoid having everything in one big package, one big file. Because refactoring with agents is pretty garbage, right? They have trouble renaming packages. They have trouble renaming, moving files around. They have problems splitting files, and splitting files takes a lot of tokens. So you wanna start putting structure into your projects early, once things work, for example. So here I might already have like almost done too much. I'm at 36% of the context window. I can't actually do the refactor in a sub agent because the parent agent needs to know what changed. I think I'm not really good at sub agents overall. It's like split the application into a package folder into a because this is a big repo with a lot of crap, I'm going to say add research pkg package to avoid having a bloated main.go. So this is currently the refactor that we're going to do because it knows that the application works. Hopefully it works because I haven't tested it, haven't tested the new version. Enter your markdown content, finish creating research note. But so what does it support now in the help? It supports a lot of features. Another thing that we might want to do is in the to-do MD here is like add subverbs. Add subverbs for the search functionality. Keep the root command as an alias for the add command, right? Add flag to add edit verb to open in editor. Yeah, those are small little quality of life things that maybe I want to have as well. Here it's refactoring all of that stuff. So maybe what I'll show after the refactoring based on how many tokens it's going to eat, you can see it's already like eaten 10% by just creating a couple of more files, right? Like it goes really quick once you start refactoring, which is why I like using a traditional IDE. Use a traditional IDE with refactoring capabilities. If you do it after the fact, very easy to burn a lot of tokens and destroy your code base. So this is something that happens with like completely hands-off agents like Manus, which we'll go into. But I wonder if Manus can expose external ports and we can delegate that to Manus, or if we should just delegate the creation of the MCP to, man, this is like a minimal research. This is not a great research. Maybe I should redo it. Focus on giving a Go developer all the necessary information to write a proper version of, and then I'm actually going to give it the source code. Here I'm experimenting a little bit. This is the kind of research that I've never done. This sketch might be wrong, not use the right stuff. We really want to give a new software developer intern a full book on how to implement a remote MCP for web ChatGPT. So oh shit, I didn't do a deep research flag. This happens to me quite often. I don't know if I can do it after the fact. We'll see. Yeah, annotated, expanded, validated, verified. Yes. Yes. Because I'm asking for a book for an intern, this will also give me something to myself understand what is going on. While the book might be about implementing something, it also helps me learn how that thing is going to be implemented, right? Because such a research is going to put a coding agent on some pretty strong tracks, and I can learn about those tracks. So I'd be able to look at the result of the agent MD and figure out what it is, right? So you can see this is starting to be like a little bit more interesting, where it's like, it's going to start looking at the files. You can see we're at 44%, up from 26, I think, before. And there's a pretty big risk that it starts like losing the sauce. Here we did it early enough that I don't think there's going to be any issues. But who knows, right? It's very easy for it to be like, oh, it doesn't compile. Let me like remove this function and replace it with a placeholder. And you're like, why? It used to work before. Why did you do that? Right? It's or it might like start creating a underscore new file to store, put that, and then at that point the context window is too full, so it starts hallucinating things. I've had like a lot of trouble with refactoring with agents, and for something that would take me like literally a minute 30 in an IDE. Especially around packages in Go. Once it starts introducing circular dependencies, it's pretty good at resolving those, but that can also like really make it go crazy. It can also lead to package errors that are actually out of the control of the agent because of some external toolchain configuration or so. That's also a good way when tool checks, like this feedback loop of tool checking, starts to become pretty weird. What is AI character card generation? Oh, is that it's a GPT. Okay. All right, so we have our deep research going here for building MCPs. Let's go back to, well, maybe I should commit the add research stuff, right? Oh, I need to go into Go Labs, and then git add command apps add research. So pkg, and that's all, right? And then cat git commit message has a full refactor documentation, which is pretty nice. So I like having these like slightly sloppy commit messages. I don't care too much about the slop here, but actually this is something to put into the feedback loops and potentially XXX techniques. Is so we already did the lsofwho, is like keep a sharp eye out for plans and slop in plans, performance optimizations, backward compatibility. So that's actually a pretty important thing in the agents cleaning up. Be very mindful of agents trying to add quote unquote backwards compatibility, because suddenly they're trying to do two things at once, especially if you change an API to be significantly different and they try to keep backwards compatibility for something that doesn't even exist, because that will really add complexity for the agent and make things very muddy. So when you do plans with an agent, I tend to not very much do plans. I trust AMCode's to-do building because it's like pretty on point. But the feedback loops that you want, the CLI tools, build, blah, 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 techniques, there we were. Be wary of the agent doing too much. Sonnet looking at you. I don't use AMCode. I don't use Cloud Code, so I'm not sure. AMCode's pretty good at keeping Sonnet in track in terms of slop craziness. Performance optimization, concurrency, security, like all of these are kind of slop that it likes adding at the end that have like a really high potential of derailing your project as well. So less of an issue here, less of an issue with AMCode. I often use O3 for planning. So O3 has pretty cryptic plans, plan output that almost looks like gibberish, but it has a lot of precise tokens is what I call it, that keeps an LLM like Claude, like Sonnet, really on track. Like O3 has this tendency of like just outputting like jargon-ish kind of stuff, like very concise jargon that almost looks like weird ass stuff to humans. And like, right, like if I go back maybe to this one, right, like it doesn't say what the search response is or what the limit after params are. You really don't have a good idea of what search is. Obviously, it's going to be, I don't know what it is actually, but for some reason, putting this as a plan into Sonnet will have it stay pretty well on track. Obviously, this is just me based on vibes and a, you know, like a pretty small sample set. So you'll have to experiment on your own. But I found that to work pretty well. So we have committed this, and I wonder how much to-dos are left. So ask for links, add flag for links, add subverbs for the search functionality. Yeah, ask for date in TUI, default filled out, so enter skips, moves us forward. Get the full path of an idea using the library browser. I don't even know what this does. All right, cool. So here in a sub-agent, continue with to-do MD. And so here a sub-agent is just gonna, like, at this point we have a pretty good framework and architecture that I know that it won't add too much to the framework as it goes. So we can start adding features in the sub-agent, which is going to almost not use any tokens in the parent agent. So this is a technique with the sub-agents. So sub-agents, once the core architecture layout of the code base is set, ask for feature implementation in a sub-agent, knowing it won't modify the code base too much, right? Ask for bug fixing, which tends to use up a lot of tokens in feedback loop verification, but not modify the code base very much. In sub-agents, parallel sub-agents, I have experimented with. I don't know how to prompt it reliably in AMCode. So this is AMCode sub-agents, right? Like I'm not sure what Cloud Code does there. Obviously, you need to find your own workflows as well, right? But this kind of stuff is pretty good because we were at I think at 44% when we started the agent, and it's going to add but I think it's going to do all the things in to do MD for now, and it's going to keep the things for later not touched. Which, if you, I don't know how Mcode kind of prompts Sonnet, but Sonnet, if you don't keep it on a leash, it will like implement anything that's in the to do MD, even if you tell it like don't implement stuff or only implement one task. The tendency is very high for it to go much further. So this completed very quickly. I'm not sure how deep these are. Like they seem pretty not deep for what I'm used today, or maybe I was just yapping all the time. So understanding MCP, MCP JSON RPC over SSE, setting up the core, register search, register fetch, SSE, integrating OAuth 2. Because our MCP provider is remote, OAuth ID for user login. In practice, this means that when a user adds our tool, they'll be prompted to log in via an OAuth provider, and ChatGPT will gain an access token. OIDC provider setup, such as OAuth, Okta, or whatever. I'm not sure how to do that. Can I use GitHub? I'm going to have it implement that, right? Like, so now we have like a big deep research thing, which we might want to use our add research tool to build as well. Where's my add research tool? Oh, it's there. And, you know, use Google Labs to build it, or maybe, yeah, I'm going to use that as an experiment. And so you can see we're finished the sub agent. We're still at 45%, I think. I don't fully trust this to be in sync with the current status, but I'm going to assume that it is. And then the, I don't know if it updated the to-do list ask links for interactive link input. So actually always ask for links, but allow to disable, or when dash dash links is provided. It added the add metadata YAML preamble, right? Continue with other features, all in a sub agent. All right. Definitely over engineering the add research here, but who knows? So how would I use GitHub to restrict this to my user ID? All right, techniques. All right, this is starting to get messy. Let's go back to the structure of the video. We have ideation workflow, which I have now a few ideas of. Like when you scratch an itch, you can basically ask O3, how would I do this? Don't overthink the prompt. Then use that as a starting point learning experience, using as a coding tutor, and then we can use O3 as a coding agent. We did the same with deep research. With AI Studio, Gemini. So use O3, deep research in a Tango as a coding agent, or spec planner. You can use O3 for parts of the feature to build, as I showed. You can do deep research to really explore a topic, use deep research as a coding agent, use, oh yeah, so that was basically what I just wrote in here. So I'm going to have to clean this up, and I'll probably use an LLM to do the transcript. So you can use O3 to brainstorm, to research libraries, to research algorithms, to combine pieces of code, to add features to existing code. So I'll show how I can add features to existing code, right? And I'll also add a feature to use existing code to merge all of that together and do it in, I'm going to do it in O3, and then I'll show how to use Manus to do that as well. So, or even Manus. So gonna wait for this. I'm gonna take a short break, and then I'll be right back. So during this short break, let me add back my little video here that I love, and I'll be right back. All right, we're back. We're back. That was a short break. What's going on here? Man, this like React hate is so annoying. I don't understand how people think React is too complicated. I don't know. It's like people who think Kubernetes is too complicated. My little favorite rant. For some reason, that opinion is like controversial. I don't get why. Okay, we are still modifying links behavior and implementing additional features. I was asking about GitHub, and you can see it actually is going to start. You can prove the token is valid and bound to the correct user by asking GitHub's REST API. So I could register a little. See, it's adding me code for here. So it's adding like concrete code. So I'll show you how to add. I can't give it to Manus because Manus would need to have like credentials and all of that stuff. This is a pretty complicated kind of use case, and it might be useful to also capture that on video in a more planned context, even though I don't necessarily want to build it. Also, I'm fragmenting my attention against between two projects, which is actually part of my workflow. So in terms of the workflow, what I often do is like build multiple things at once, right? Waiting for an agent to finish is not just boring, but it actually takes you out of your engineering, brainstorming mindset. So this might vary, right? It's like building multiple things at once. You can build something and talk with people on how to continue building that thing. That might be pretty useful. It's like at the moment I'm talking kind of to myself, but the audience is like my rubber duck, and I'm thinking about features I want to add to my ad research tool. So that's really, really cool because it adds a social component to building software. Because you're not actively writing code, if you are sitting down with a non-technical person, it's almost as if you are both developers, right? Like this really empowers non-technical users to feel like they built software. And that's really, really powerful. It's also really, really fun. You can sit down, I mean, either with your designers or your product manager or your manager or CEO, whatever, but you can also sit down with your friends and your family and basically with your nephews, with your kids, with your nieces, with, you know, with like everybody in your family, and they get to pretty much in the same amount or maybe in a bigger amount than you to build that software, right? You're just there to kind of steer the agent, burn your own credits, stuff like that. But that's a really useful thing. The other thing, and that depending on how ADHD you are, build multiple projects at once. So I have trouble building multiple features on the same project at once, but I have many little tools that I like to improve, and that I can just like build in the background, right? So it's like, for example, this like little ad research thing, pretty freaking cool. I hope it's like starting to not destroy itself too much. See here, this is Sonnet starting to build the for later before finishing the stuff before. Yeah, it's starting to add like a ton of like weird little shit in here. So why did it ask config file support? Like this is stuff that start with Sonnet, and you have to start to be careful doing that, right? Because I know that it's able to test it, and we're going to stop now because I can see that it's starting to do quite a bit of weird shit. So we're going to stop here. Add research. We're going to add the test files as well into the Git repo because why not? And is there anything else in here to keep? No. So Sparkles added a lot of features. What I'm going to do now, and this is like an important, really important part of the cleanup, or maybe the workflow itself, right? It's like at the end, ask for a readme.md implementation.md for CLI, TUI tools, use VHS to record GIFs. So those things are pretty useful to add, right? Like in a sub agent, create an engaging and detailed README MD for new users. Also create a very detailed full paragraphs plus bullet points plus links to code and files, short pseudocode sketches for an new developer / intern to get started working on this project. You can, by the way, see because of the sub agent, we're just like at 1% more. So this is in one sub agent, and in parallel, in another sub agent, use VHS, we have a modified by charm bracelet. Oh shit. We have by charm bracelet, we have a modified version that also allows taking .txt screenshots, which you can use to verify that the VHS recording actually worked, to record a series of demo GIFs for the different features. So VHS is a great thing. It will record little GIFs that you can put into your README, into your GitHub page. They're pretty, but also they allow me to quickly verify, like, oh, like this thing is able to interact with this terminal UI. This is like the way the output looks without having to run a lot of these things myself. So that is pretty cool. This like in parallel sub agent kind of stuff, I don't fully get because I asked it in another sub agent. It's not running here, so this is something that I might have to look into a little bit more. So now I'm just going to install this sub agent into my path. I'm going to call it research actually, or add research. Command apps add research. And now if I do add research -- help, I have all of that stuff. Hopefully I'll have a README teaching me how to use that tool. That's a weird part of the workflow / cleaning up is like start learning and using what you built, because it's almost as if you found a tool using Google search, right? It has all the features you wanted, but you still need to incorporate that as a user. And an interesting thing here is like if you start building too many tools, you'll forget that they exist, right? Otherwise, you will forget that they even exist. You won't build the muscle memory to use them, right? You're going to end up building the same thing 3 times in different ways. And that's, I realized like when I was on the plane to San Francisco, I built 2 tools that I really wanted to have for a long time, and one I never even tested. And now I look at it and I'm like, I don't even understand what I was trying to do. I didn't build a proper README at the time to capture my intent in a way that I can like restore it, right? So start learning it. This is where things get important, is like have a nice README MD for yourself, right? Because you are actually a new user. So really kind of important to do that. So this is doing like the whole doc. I don't know why it's not starting to parallel other sub agents. So this is something that maybe some AMP code developers can tell me how to do. So in the meantime, because I was building multiple things at once, right? Like we do have a full deep research on how to build an OAuth MCP, and then I have like some kind of a hack on how to do this with GitHub apparently, which would require me to have a token, or at least it can validate the token. All right, interesting. Man, every time I kind of forget how OAuth works. Chat GPT OpenAI requires OIDC though, right? I'm still asking questions about all of this. Like, will I have to create a an OAuth 0 account? I'm not sure how to do it as an individual. And so one of the 20 minutes max for the video. All right, well, I guess I'll have to do like 6 videos then. Marcus, while I have you, oh, it looks like you left. But if you're still there or so, what's the topic that you think would be the most interesting to cover in that first 20 minutes video? Just like an end-to-end building the ad research tool. I feel that having like a concrete example is something that's often missing from online videos. We'll see. I don't know. I don't think Marcus is still there, but all right. Well, I guess there's going to be material to still do like a lot of videos. I'm gonna finish the stream in 20 minutes as well, which is good for me to keep limits. The thing I was gonna ask is like, what's the easiest way for me as a hobbyist developer to get OIDC working, or in fact allow ChatGPT OpenAI to use a remote connector going to my local PC over ngrok to verify my identity so that only I can register that connector. Because I don't know anything about auth. I mean, I do know a little bit, but it's really not something I feel comfortable with. All right. I kind of want to show the Manus thing though, as we go, because then we can pick this up maybe in the next planning video. They require an OAuth 2.1 flow. Okay, must you send a bearer access token on every server, must validate access token they issued or delegated. Oh, they don't require OAuth, right? What ChatGPT sees, Bridge asks as its after user logs in, you issue your own short-lived JWT and return that to ChatGPT. Okay, so all these 3 documents are things that I would need to have for prompting Manus. So I'm going to use my ad research tool now, which is not asking me for a title anymore. See, it broke. This is where I was like, this last phase of adding all these features, I don't think that was a good idea. I don't think that was a good idea at all. But live and learn, right? Because we committed all of this stuff to Git, we can rewind. So using Git is really important, actually. So workflow example. Using Git at each step is really important. Show the git commit message.yaml. I haven't experimented with the agent committing to Git yet, which often leads me to forget doing so, which is not great. What is this guy doing? Extern parse error? All right. So ad research. What am I doing? Oh my God. Mcode really doesn't like terminal resizing. So ad research, and here we're going to call it like chat GPT plus local remote MCP. connector, and enter your markdown content. I'm going to actually also cancel. What other things do we have? Actually, yeah, the markdown content, is it able to paste all of this huge 249 lines? Yes. Enter relevant links. I'm going to add this. So that's nice. And now we created that. All right, so add research. And this allows me to search. Add research search. It didn't add verbs, right? Search existing, and then I can do select a node. Oh, so this is just a library. Oh, and I can do search, right? Copy content to clipboard, yes. And now I do have this in the clipboard. This is amazing. As you can see, I have to learn how to use this tool that I just created for myself, even though I kind of like prompted every feature. I kind of already forgot all the features that I added, and some of them broke, which is interesting. And what I did right now, however, is just paste a big research, but I do also want to append the smaller researches. So I wonder if we do actually have an append mode. I don't think I added append, right? No, I do have an append flag. So append, well, this test. Oh, and then it allows me to search that, right? And I can do search, MCP, appended note here. Okay, so that's amazing. So I can now append this guy for updating with GitHub. That's actually something interesting to add to here. When appending, ask for a subtitle, insert dash dash dash. Allow editing metadata. And why GitHub is a special GitHub provider, this is also something we will add. So again, append. Oh shit, I appended it to the wrong one. And then MCP. Okay. So again, another feature per default. Per default, append list selection should select the last created, edited MCP. Add a created at updated at list of times of dates when updating a research note. And then the last one here we're going to add as well. So browse and select files to attach dynamically. Use content from the clipboard, right? And all right. And if I open this guy, which I can open in here, right? So did it actually append all that stuff as well? Is this the last one we asked? If you do want the local, yeah, okay. So we do have the full document now, which is pretty cool. We can export it. Oh, we can export all of these things. Do we have a show way? I don't know. This this tool will require using it to fully improve it. I don't know if the agent's still running. Create VHS demo recordings for add research feature. Is this still going? Or is the agent stuck after this weird refactor? No, it seems that it created one like 2 minutes ago. I don't know. Maybe it's hanging. All right, anyway. I'm going to go to Manus. And I'm going to... No, not Manus. Jesus Christ. I'm going to create an experiment, which is remote chat GPT connector. And here I'm going to... Is there a way to get the path? Show, print, title, file, export, export to, path for exported file, export, config, show, ask, links, browse. No, this is adding files. Okay, so allo, printing, show, get path to clipboard, functionality. We're gonna put all our stuff into the research here by... What is going on? Copy pasting this, putting it in here. And the only thing I'm going to do now, start amp, and then say build a simple MCP remote connector for ChatGPT C research.md. Build it all self-contained, but top level go mod in command experiments remote ChatGPT connector. Organize in PKG and command. When you require tail scale funnel setup, ChatGPT connector setup, GitHub OAuth setup, let me know. Build these. So here what's interesting, I'm going to show another technique, which is because I want to use sub-agents to limit the use of context that we have. And I don't know, I see that there's one viewer on YouTube. I don't know if it's Marcus. If that's you, I have a question for you. But one technique I'm going to show you, and this is going to be the last, is you can kind of ask for a plan up front. I want to split this out into sub-agents, but need a plan of what first APIs need to be laid out so that each agent can do their work independently. Make a simple pseudocode coding agent with sub-parallel sub-agents and output as a simple program in the chat. Basically, I'm going to ask the agent to come up with a pseudo-agent algorithm to split this task at hand into sub-agents, right? So I could ask it to do a plan. I kind of am experimenting with this, like outputting it as pseudocode, because I can then potentially in the future actually implement the sub-agents in the way that they are able to reuse their context, right? Like I am about, if they do need shared context, put that into files and then use that, or put it into the database. So I'm curious to see what it does. This is like something I'm experimenting with right now. I'm not fully sure how it works. I did it a couple of times in the past and it worked really well. It's this weird kind of like, you don't even need an agent that has any kind of complex features, because you can ask the agent ad hoc to build complex features, but just for the case at hand. And then in the future, we use these tools. So I haven't gone into tool building at all in terms of like helping the agent. So I guess that's going to be the topic for another video. And it looks like I'll be able to split this into many, many smaller videos that I then hopefully am going to be able to record without getting too distracted. If we look back at this session, we did two things, I think, mostly, besides going over the topics that I wanted to cover, which is we actually built a pretty full-featured ad research tool, which I think is kind of getting stuck at this point. Like, I don't think this command apps demos is working all that well at this point. Maybe. I don't know. It seems really, really slow. I'm not sure what it's doing. It's doing a couple of diffs of GIFs, so we'll have to look at that. This guy has already started writing a program and pseudocode, so this is not what I wanted at all. No, just output the parallel sub-agent algorithm in this chat. It's just a guideline for you to know how to split off sub-agents. Delete that file, output the pseudocode in chat, then stop and ask me to validate. So as I said, experiments, maybe Amcode also changed something in their prompts that make it like not work as great as last time I tried this. So ongoing experiment, and I think at some point I'll have to move away from Amcode to do these kinds of experiments because it's going to clash with what they're building. Like they want to probably build some sub-agent splitting methodologies in there as well. So wonder what this dude is doing. I'm going to let it run like a little bit longer and then before I implement it. So here we do have the parallel sub-agent for building the MCP remote connector, right? So we're going to create the types, the config, the GoMod setup. So no need for the GoMod setup. Then we're going to, in parallel, independently create the core, which is the server interface, all of that. Then we have the auth agent. We have the transport agent. I don't think we need transport because we want to use like the third party part. And then the discovery, I'm not sure. So I'm going to say we actually want to reuse existing libraries to avoid doing too much. Update. But right, like here, it allows me to design this like agent splitting off up front. I played with pseudocode where it was like sharing and reusing context. So maybe I'll ask that as well in the next step, where I will ask it to write down files. So here you can see agent one, create these types, set up GoMod with dependencies. So there's a Go SDK. Okay, it uses another one than what's in the deep research, which is interesting. All right. GitHub token validation via REST API agent server. Okay. Agent discovery. Sure, why not? Phase 3, main application, load of this, validated. Library reuse strategy. Okay, this is all cool. Cool. For each sub-agent, also have them output a file about their work so that other agents, phase 3, can benefit from it. That way, we maximize context sharing. All right, it finished doing the recordings here. Did it actually create modify files? It did add a schema GraphQL. What the fuck? What is that? Okay. Demos. I'm going to add everything. And then I'm going to remove the binary. All right. So what we can do is Firefox, command apps, add research, demos, and then just look at the GIFs, right? So the basic thing, see, this is what I was afraid of. It's just like, is not able to start that stuff. Um, well, thankfully the tool was built, right? But this initial CD command stuff is just like, um, not all that great. But so this gives you like little diffs, GIFs. They're obviously like not perfect because they can be a little bit too slow often. But they give you like an idea of what happens here. This is interesting. It asks for the title at the end. So that changed, right? Yeah, so those things are a little bit weird. I have to find a way to optimize the creation of these diffs, right? Of these GIFs where it's able to validate at each point that these things work. It's like maybe an idea here is, all right, so the GIFs are a little bit off, all of them. Before creating the VHS, run the script you want to create in a tmux. When typing big files, speed up the typing and then speed it back down. Run in a sub agent. So you can see this, the context here is still at 47%. So I can kind of like allow myself to do this kind of stuff. In the meantime, we have updated here our thing, and we can see this creates a foundation, which these agents are now going to be able to reuse. And they are going to create these subfiles, which are going to be useful for me, and they will have to need to clean them up at some point, right? So this is part of what you need to do to clean up your end stuff, is that you want to have in your cleanups, cleaning up, since we often create many intermediate markdown files, make sure they get merged, are up to date at the end. And that's something I often forget to do. It's thankfully pretty easy to go back and just say like, look at all the markdown files, validate against the source code, make sure they're up to date, merge them, make great documentation out of them, which is like a pretty token expensive prospect, but also, you know, if the documentation doesn't match the source code, that's also a good way to waste tokens. So something to be aware of. We're going to remove the binary here. And there's like a bunch, you can see the slop starting to accumulate, right? There's a shell script here, there's a Go file, there's a GraphQL file, there's like a config YAML. This is like starting to degrade, right? Like this add research tool that we created is great, but some features started changing. We start having files that are weird. All these like VHS scripts are pretty odd as well. So these things are, if you don't stay on top of it, will make your life harder, especially if you take a break and come back. So maybe I'll extend the stream by like 15 minutes, have this experiment with the VHS going, and then maybe ask it to clean up the add research. And maybe I won't. Like maybe I have to stop when I say I'm going to stop. So we're going to commit this, and we're going to say art, add a bunch of pretty broken demos, add documentation and implementation MD. And this is going to, the annoying thing in AMP code right now, I haven't updated AMP code today, so this might or might not be the latest version, is that when things are in sub-agents, I have to approve them every time by hand. If I haven't like always approved them up front, that's a little bit annoying. I'm not sure why they made that decision, but maybe there's a reason. So I'm going to wait for these VHS things to finish. I might have maybe done that in the main thread just to see how well the tmux works, because I can't really see into the sub agent right now. I think maybe in the VS Code extension you can. I'm not sure about that part. I had races and writing files, which was a really good way to waste a lot of tokens, so I stopped using it. In the meantime, or go MCP down here, I'm going to start that one, and I might come back to it. It's going to ask me credentials and all of that stuff, so I'll probably, because the weather is nice, go outside a little bit, and then after that I have work programming to do. But we'll see how far I get, because being able to store ideas into my idea database from voice mode sounds really compelling as well. So we'll see. What's going on here? Oh yeah, it's still running its VHS stuff, which takes it. Now I know why it took a lot of time. It's because it was typing all of that stuff pretty slowly. All right, so here we can see the parallel sub agents going. Which is at this point I ran it in parallel, and that's indeed what I saw previously as well. Is when you create this kind of like pseudocode, it's more effective at doing things in parallel than if you like kind of prompt it as you go. And because of the shared context, hopefully it's going to be able, like the way I think of it is like with threads is like you have a fork join pattern basically, but you can also do like worker pool kind of patterns, right? Where you say like, oh, look, there's a to-do MD run in parallel. And then every time update, you know, the main thing, maybe you even have like a blocking command that will be unblocked as the next job comes into the queue. Like those are things that I want to experiment with that I haven't looked at just yet, but that might be really interesting. And doing it with files is a little bit complicated, so that might be some MCP stuff. And I know I'll think back about these kind of remote worker thread join patterns. I also have them in the video transcript, but those are things I would put into my idea file, right? Like these kind of concepts worth exploring about coding agents. The idea of thinking of it as like threads is something that maybe the first time I had it as an idea, I might have forgotten. And however, it's a really, really deep insight, right? Like there's this concept that you might have a shower thought, and if you don't write it down, you'll have it later again because it's such a good idea. Like that's wrong. You can have really, really good ideas and just immediately forget them. Literally while talking, like, oh, I had a really good, and then I lost it. That's a really sad moment often, because you are very deep in a certain context and have potentially an insight that allows you to shortcut all of this context, or like kind of solve this whole really deep issue you are in. And if you lose it, that's just really sad. And I've taken the habit of writing down most of my ideas. I always have like index cards ready. Not that I often like go back to them. My desk is littered with this shit. It's like crazy. And I used to kind of be on top of it. I'm not anymore, but just to show you, I have like box over box of like nicely sorted index cards like this, sorted by project and all kinds of stuff. I used to be like pretty crazy about this, but I'm not right now. That's okay. There's moments for organization like that. There's moments for not. I'm pretty chillax about productivity tools, right? Like if I don't use them, then that's fine. That means I don't want to use them. You shouldn't stress about your productivity tools. It's like if it's a routine that's like pleasant and it works for you right now, that's fine. It doesn't have to work for you in 2 weeks or 3 months. Or if you go 2 years without using a certain practice, that's fine too. Maybe I'll come back to it, maybe not. It's about having fun, and having fun allows you to keep a certain like consistency. Like consistency is really important, but it doesn't mean that you have to stress yourself out about being consistent per se. It's more like if you are able to structure your life to have a good chill baseline, that allows you to start plugging in things into your routine. I mean, obviously I'm only talking about my own experience here, but once I had a pretty stable baseline, which took a while because I only got diagnosed autistic at like 42, 41. But once I had that, this allowed me to really like pick and choose things I would add. And then if I was like, this is like a little bit too much, a little bit too stressful, then I would remove it. But that allowed me to know how far I could go to build consistency. So now we can see the 4 sub agents are finished, and it goes back to sub agent 1 and starts to build the whole thing. So I'm pretty curious. This was pretty fast, right? Because of the sub agents, you are actually able to maximize a certain resource. So just like with threads, you are using potentially more CPU or GPU compute than you would if you had done it linearly, but it's much faster. And obviously here we also have this, like, what is latency in the real world, right? Like you would have a shorter latency. Here for us is actually also important because latency is token count in the main conversation. So that means that you have this weird, like, okay, I'm interested in the wall clock. This is actually an interesting idea that I should flag for the transcript. This is, I've never thought about it that way before. The fact that latency for us as agent coders is not just wall clock time, because obviously we want to be done faster, but latency is also equivalent to token count, which also adds to latency later on when you do inference, but especially adds to cost, right? So like compute is cost, but also latency is added cost once your context gets bigger. So you have these like really interesting interactions that go beyond the traditional like kind of throughput / latency model, where the elapsed time is actually cost because it gets reused, except if you use caching, but then you have this like decision of like, when do you want to cache versus not? So there's really interesting kind of things going on in there. I'm also curious about, since agents can run long, right? And we are limited by our human time, is like, when do you want to run your agents? Do you run them at night as a batch jobs? Might be interesting, right? Like if you have sub agents and you have planned out something that's pretty long, do you want to run that as part of a big batch job to say like prepare cleaning up all the documentation of your code base, which can often be like one shot, right? You put in all the code context and you say like, please update all the files. Out comes a bunch of like replace tool calls, one big inference. That's something you could totally run at night and just wake up to like updated repos. Interesting ideas to look at. How does the batch mode work of LLM providers? How does batch mode of different LLM providers work? Because you have to schedule them up front, right? Like you can't kind of do an interactive back job kind of loop at night. Interesting. Because this goes, again, it's like this interesting model of batch jobs, the way we used to think about it when we had like CPU as a resource and time mostly being CPU constrained, obviously, right? Here we have less of a constraint on the resources, even though we still have, because we have like heavily rate limited services in a way. But there's all these interesting interactions on how to optimize wall clock time versus costs versus effectiveness of the individual agents versus how long you can do a run, right? Like you want to minimize your latency also because it allows you to do more. If you minimize the token costs, if you minimize the token in your context window, you are just able to orchestrate more work. At least in the current models that we have. Like we're finally going to be able to write up what we've been doing at work in terms of context window management, which is really interesting. Anyway, batches, 1 request per line. Each line must know how to run, posted purpose batch, and then limit 50K request or 200 MB per file. typical latency, usually less than 1 hour, hard cap 24 hours. So this could be interesting of having these, like, especially if you have like repos that are not necessarily touched all that often or over the weekend, have coding agents do like batched updates to your code base, where I don't think necessarily writing code is all that useful per se, but like creating plans, doing analysis, potentially, I don't know, I have to think about it. Updating documentation is for sure a good one that you can both parallelize. For open source projects, that becomes pretty interesting, right? Because like suddenly you can start batching updates to many open source projects at once to say create VHS scripts, right? Like you can go over a ton of repos, put them into one batch call. So like just like create and update the VHS scripts based on the current README that is in there. Those kinds of things are pretty interesting to look at. And then maybe do a feedback loop, right? And then an hour later, do the second pass on it, because it will take you a while to say run a big compute job, those kinds of things. So yeah, this is a really interesting question. Like, what are coding jobs that can be run in one inference over a really long period of time, but however batched? Which is the exact opposite of using something like, say, Cerebrus, which allows you to do code inference in like milliseconds and however use smaller models to do it, which is also something that's like relatively unexplored, what this means for coding agents, right? So anyway, those are ideas for long-term coding agents. This guy is integrating the final thing. I'm kind of going to let this go. The VHS stuff takes a lot of time. So maybe for the VHS stuff, an interesting thing to do would be like write all the VHS scripts after you've tmuxed it up front and then render them all in parallel. That might be an interesting thing to do. So I don't know where it's there yet, so I will have to stop that. But this was also a good idea to note. Hopefully I'll be able to fish it out of the transcript. Also, if ideas get lost, right, like there's so much stuff to do that you can kind of let it go. But still, ideas are cool. Ideas are really cool. I'm pretty happy about my ad research thing, right? Even though it's like a little bit weird. So now it's asking me for links, and then it's asking me for titles. All right. Let me finish this like integration agent. I'm really curious about that one. We're a 24% token context window, right? Even though we built like a whole GitHub auth MCP search server, which if we look back at these 2 hours that we just did, we basically built like 2 big ass tools. Not big ass, but like stuff that would definitely have taken me 2-3 days each to build previously and tired me out significantly, right? Like I would have basically spent my whole weekend on this instead of, at lunch, like blabbing online and then calling it a day. I do have a lot of work to do afterwards, so hopefully I'll be fresh for that. Come on, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing, bro? You didn't even ask me about credentials and stuff like that. So you can see this, like creating the shared files, I think was pretty interesting, because this allows the integration agent to look at what the individual parts have done without necessarily having to read all their source code and just loading the one context window directly. I'm not sure, and it's a little bit hard with a proprietary tool to really understand what's going on. Damn, I wish this finished for the stream. Please finish. Please finish in time. What can we do in the meantime? We can, because I don't want to start something new, because then I'll just be like nerd sniped again. So let's just go look at, well, I guess this is a good occasion to see how I would potentially do some more research, which is I like Cloud AI for its artifacts. So I would say make a minimal web application allowing me to experiment and learn about bloom filters, right? So I'll see something interesting, like a little algorithm, and then I want to kind of play with the algorithm because there's someone who needs to have something that I can interact with. And now with these Claude having search and having like thinking tool calling really allows me to quickly create these little things. I think that's absolutely amazing for teachers. Obviously, this might not work fully, right? You do need to verify that to make sure that you are learning / teaching the right thing. But this really allows you to create like teaching material that is of a quality that I think is pretty amazing, and it's not restricted to computer stuff, right? Obviously, math and things like that are pretty nice, but you can also just like create some very like ways of putting friction where friction is important, if that makes sense, right? It's like when I learn about bloom filters, the friction of potentially typing down a bloom filter algorithm is not all that useful, but maybe playing with it is maybe more useful. And those are things that, I mean, I would have to validate if this was SDF, ASDF. This like is not in there, but if I do a very minimal one for having collisions, that would be quite interesting, right? To be like, I don't know how to create collision on something that's like, that's all that useful, but you know, I don't know how to do this. So yeah, ASDF, what happens? Might be in set. Yeah, this, I mean, this is amazing, right? It's like, it allows me to visualize how a bloom filter works, and I can, you know, I can generate graphs from that. I can generate diagrams. I can generate like a whole text, and I have a finished algorithm, at least in pseudocode or in JavaScript, that I can then reuse in a big application. And if you look at this, which is great, right? Like, there's a lot of research, but this stuff is just, I don't know if it was written by hand, but this took me not very long to build, right? Maybe it looked at the source code, and that's why I was able to do it that fast, which is fine, right? And it's a technique that I wrote up in here, which is you can use any kind of old books and just like paste them in there and paste them into an agent and say like, please make this. Like, it's an old algorithm. I mostly want to play with it. Maybe I just want to rip the value out of it. I'm not too interested in like fully understanding it. And so what is Mies? Oh, it's like a meta dev tool thing. All right, I'm not interested in that. Oh, that's interesting. What is the fast in process event dispatcher? All right, not all that interested. What are our agents doing? Okay, yes, please delete that. This guy is still running its VHS scripts, I think. So the connector here, yeah, so that's good. I'm not sure why it's editing the main, probably because one of the sub-agents changed it. So now it's doing the integration. So I was wondering that it did that so fast, but actually I'm not sure what it did here before. So the build here, oh, it was dealing with packages, right? Like, even though I told it to not create Go mod, did I tell it that? Maybe I forgot to tell it that. It's in the agent MD, but it's something that it often skips. But top level Go mod, I think it misunderstood that. It misunderstood it. It was my fault. I should have just left it off because it's in the agent MD. Curious to see how much of that is going to work because I don't fully trust the SDK. Maybe I should. Because I didn't do a research on the SDK either, so I don't know how much AMCode does researches on its own. I wonder why it hallucinated all of that stuff, to be honest, right? Like, I'm not sure why manifest service was hallucinated. I am skeptical about this one. It's weird because it used a different SDK than the one that was in the deep research. So we'll see. Why Go rocks for building it? There's a lot of Go stuff today. Medley interlisp is also pretty cool to look at, and using agents to examine old software is really cool. So this one's definitely going to my printer. And yeah, one thing I do often also, which I have in my agentic workflow markdown, is that I will often print out the deep research that I do, because then I can read them in quiet at my coffee shop, which is how I actually incorporate often a lot of ideas. And I also write a lot of ideas in the margins of the papers that I read, right? Because like reading these papers will give me ideas about more things. I'm pretty skeptical about what is going on here. I don't think this is looking all too good. It's also an example of like, I don't really understand what I'm going for. I'm not really sure either about the MCP SDK. Yeah, concrete examples, E2E would be awesome. So I think the ad research that I recorded here is pretty nice. The connector here is a good example of something that's more complicated, might have gone wrong, and shows like one of the issues with agent coding, where it's like, oh, you built something that you don't understand, and that is wrong, and you will have a really hard time understanding why it's wrong. So yeah, you've seen it completed. Like, I'm not fully sure that this is going to work. Here, the whole VHS stuff, I don't know if it's stuck or not. I should have asked it to run in the top level, but you can see we're pretty low on the token count anyway. Here, we spend a lot of tokens then on the integration part, which often happens. Even though it ran in a sub-agent, it started doing a lot of stuff here than in the main part. And I'm kind of curious why. I thought like the sub-agent would be doing the things. It's maybe because of the Go mod init. Because it was able to build it before. I don't fully know what was going on here. So now it's writing a set of to-dos. It's updating it. It's not asking me credentials and how to set it up, because I kind of want to have it walk me through how to set it up instead of reading the README, because that way I am immediately in the loop, right? Like in one of the feedback loops is that you want to be in the feedback loop yourself as well sometimes, where you're like a Q&A agent. So, I mean, I managed to get completely off track and not work on my presentation, because now I have like nothing to build. I guess I have a transcript. Needing Tailscale funnel setup, ChatGPT connect. Yeah. So I'm going to commit the MCP connector. Maybe I'll finish the MCP connector on stream. That way I have an end-to-end example. We're going to go to labs. We're going to go add experiments. And then this is called remote ChatGPT connector. We're going to delete. It doesn't even have a binary. It deleted it. Nice. Oh, and we have this color picker that we didn't really look at either. All right. Anyway, sparkles, add experiment, untested for MCP ChatGPT connector. All right, so walk me through. Yeah, but what is step one? Oh, go to settings developers. I wonder if I can do that on screen stream. Probably not. Um, where is it now? Oh, it's here. New OAuth app, remote, ChatGPT connector, URL to your full page. Yeah, localhost 8080, application description. Callback is going to be authorization callback. That's really interesting. Remote MCP server. Copy the client ID. Click generate a new client secret. All right, this is I'm gonna do upstream. So client ID, and then client secret is in .env. All right, let me quickly go off here. Command experiments remote chatgpt.env. Use your password. Okay. So I think if we go back, I'm actually going to add the feature to actually allow loading the values from a .env file with --.env file to make it more secure. Because I updated the .env file, and then I can just ask it to load it that way. That way I don't have like, and that way I don't have like credentials in the environment, which is also a way that are like exposing my credentials by just typing env, and then it would be like, oops. All right, so it's adding the feature. We're doing all of this in the main context because I do want the interactivity, but if it was possible to have like an interactive view into a sub-agent, that's how I would do it, right? Because I don't need to waste the top level context with all these kind of like interactive kind of little instructions. Like there's no need for it. All right, let's see what happens. I wonder why it did this echo command. Like, that's kind of useless. What is it doing when it says running command? So I wonder when I'm going to finish making this into a video, how I'm going to edit this. Maybe I should have bumped my font size as well, because this is going to look blurry when I show it. I mean, if it's too blurry, then I'll just have to recreate it. All right, come on. What are you doing? Is it doing something actually? So it's running it. Run the server in a tmux so I can look at it, add a lot of, so, okay, add a lot of debug logging using zero log so that we can debug what is going on. This is a technique that do this in a sub-agent, do this in multiple sub-agents in parallel. So for the different parts of the system, adding a lot of logging allows it to, well, better understand what's going on, also show me what's going on, and running them in a tmux allows me to use capture pane, for example, to grab like the tail of the log. And here we can see that it's going to hopefully start 5 sub-agents in parallel to add zero logging to all of them. It started 1 sub-agent, not 5. So I'm curious to, oh, so it's starting them in parallel. Very good. 3rd sub-agent, 4th sub-agent, 5th sub-agent, hopefully. Yeah, very nice. So I should have prompted that maybe from the start. I do have something like that in my agent MD, I think. But also what I'll do is like I'll really ask for some pretty aggressive logging while we're developing and then dial it back after that for production, because I don't need to, when I turn on debug, to have like every little single thing instrumented. And I also don't want to have like 80,000 trace or debug statements in my source code, even though they kind of function as comments, right? Like LLMs will see what is being logged and that will actually indicate what this is also all about, but in like not the most token efficient way. So, but for the agent developing things, this can really, really help, especially adding caller information, which I'll, if I start interrupting the agents now, I'll just waste a lot of work, but I'll say, oh, please add caller information, which will give me the file name and the line number, which often allows me, especially after the fact or when I clear a session, for the model to quickly get back on track and not load entire files. So this is asking me to run the test demos over there. This is going really slowly because of the VHS doing things in real time. So I'll have to think about how to optimize that stuff. And this is running commands. It's interesting. I wonder if it's going to compile things in parallel, which might or might not lead to issues because it might have syntax errors. Um, all right. All right. All right. All right. What's going on here? Reading some Twitter spam. We're going to go back to Hacker News. That's a very important part of hacker, like agentic workflow, is just reading this nonsense. Boop, 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 boop. Oh yeah, this one here. And then the interlisp, where is that? Oh yeah, here, 4 comments only. What LLMs know about their user? Engineered addictions. Agents are engineered addictions for sure. What LLMs know about their users? The age of integrity. Wait, oh, this is where it is. I already read that. Okay. Yeah, smoke is gonna suck. So I have a whole part about building your own programming languages as part of agentic workflows. I guess I really tried to cram too much into my thing again. I really need to have a different mindset when I write my concepts, because I'm like, oh, I'm going to write about my agentic workflow. I'm like, there's so much in it. Um, so maybe I should rather do like, oh, end-to-end building of the ad research tool, which to me seems like almost trivial. I'm always like, yeah, this is not really interesting at all. It's like I just asked it to build an ad research tool and do this like 5 times a day. But I think that's actually where the value lies, right? It's like what I was saying at the beginning is like I kind of have a blind spot to what might be useful to other people because I built these tools way too often. I didn't even get into my workspace manager tool, which is really useful. I have all these like little LLM Unix, which is actually a wrapper for a big tool. I didn't go into my create pull request tool. There's so much stuff. Yeah, so what is this? Netpick, Lua test source code. This is nice. I'm going to put this into my reader. The cool thing with asking the sub agents to use tmux is that I can attach to it remotely, right? That allows me to like look at what the thing is doing, and it also allows me to very easily like run 3 things at once or interact with something the agent is running without having it freak out. That's interesting. So what does it use Lua for? So I'm using JavaScript with the Goja thing. I mean, obviously I didn't implement it, but yeah, having scripting languages embedded is actually, I used to shy away from it, but it's actually really, really fun. And that's actually a Manus thing that I wanted to build today, which is I actually wanted to add a feature to 2 of my projects, which is I want to expose the doc strings and APIs of loaded Goja modules in the REPL here when doing /doc, as well as the HTTP API on port 9090. To do that, I want to use tree sitter as shown in. And so here I do have oak as shown in. That's kind of all I want to do, right? It's like want to be able to query that doc with a CLI verb. First, build the CLI verb to output the tree sitter parsed or bundled libs or executed JS. I'm not sure what that even means. Output the tree sitter parsed tree of a JavaScript file, then a verb to get the documentation for the functions, in a JS file, then add it to the REST API and the REPL. I'm just gonna let it do that. All right. So those ideas are, you know, it's just like, yeah, let it rip. So I'm gonna go build it. Is it running? Watch N1. Shit, I already did like 3 hours instead of 2. Am I going to get some sunlight today? This guy's still running. I don't know how many tokens I'm burning or if it's okay, so now I'm gonna say run it in a, oh, I said add caller info when initializing 0log, then run the server in tmux. Oh, there it is. Right. Kill it with lsofwho p. All right. I don't know fully what it's doing now. Oh, it's adding the caller info. So yeah, the logging is really like kind of a crucial step. It does waste tokens, right? So this is the kind of stuff you want to run in a sub agent if possible. If I do run it in tmux in a sub agent, I am able to follow what it's doing, right? I'm doing it here in the main thread because I just want to waste stuff and I kind of want to have insight into being able to stop it and restart it. And I don't plan on reusing this context much after that. And then I can do a tmux attach session, right? And then MCP server. Kind of see what it does in here. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like this is the beauty of logs, right? Okay, next step. Continue. The credentials are set up in .env. I wonder what that echo is about. Yeah, this is nice. Like the tmux stuff is really pretty cool. Because the thing is also I can like stop it or like, you know, stop the agent and mess in the tmux and then just resume from there. So what does the test integration? Make sure your server is accessible. Use tailscale funnel. Update your GitHub token. And ChatGPT. So tailscale funnel, how does that work? Oops, that wasn't necessarily what I wanted. Tailscale funnel serve, right? Tailscale funnel 8080. Sudo tailscale funnel 8080. Press Control C to update. Is this supposed to hit it? Yeah, why does it not get it? Oh, now it gets it, right? All right. So go to add connector with your public URL. So let's go check that. Settings, connectors, create, my search, OAuth, I trust this application, create. Error creating connector. All right, so what was the error here? Okay. I didn't get a redirect when adding the connector. OAuth authorization server over here. No, I did get. No, I have already it fetches the manifest and then shows an error. The API URL should be, all right, that's cool. And we can see we're only at 55% so far. So then it's getting the host from the request. Pretty cool. I don't know why it's starting to misedit the files, probably because they got debug logged in the subagent. Oh, or it modified it? That's weird. All right, this is like the agentic loop, which is honestly, it's really pretty nice. Even though I'm involved right now and doing like some kind of low-level debugging, I mean, I would have needed to do this by hand and like not having to read this nonsense. And LLMs are really good at pattern matching in this, right? Like you can really trust them to parse logs pretty well, and you can see it has like the file name and the file number, so it's able to go look if there's like interesting things to parse in there. It's able to go straight to that. All right, let's rebuild and test. We might have it going. Like I might have like done a big step just as part. I mean, it's been 3 hours. I didn't plan on doing 3 hours, but this was a good end-to-end kind of thing. Oh, it has no tmux tool. It has to run it from the command line. I wonder if this is going to work with all its like little HTTPS URL stuff. Like that's always the stuff that's like a little bit annoying to deal with. I wonder if I get show the dev tools in here. How do I do dev tools? I wonder if I get more info when I do this. ChatGPT failed to resolve OAuth client for MCP connector. And we're also and I might call it off after that because oh wow, what's going on? Yo. Why is this all Command A but per default? Here we're getting into the weeds. I think I would have to look a little bit more closely actually at the headers, and I could ask the agent to give me like a rundown. Actually, I'm going to do that. After this last attempt, I think I'm just going to have it write like a investigation.md file, which I can then paste into deep research, for example. and then have it do this like kind of research. So I'm curious. Yeah, what is so MCP server? OpenAI. All right, so where's my man? I don't. All right, let me try again. So it's the wrong callback. GitHub.com settings developers, OAuth apps, edit. It's the same, right? All right, last attempt. Man, why did they overload the web developer shortcut? So annoying. $400 response failed to resolve OAuth client for MCP connector. Yeah, this is out of my knowledge zone, so it's still not working. Let's write a fully detailed document explaining the things we tried, what we think the issue is, what potential next steps would be. Store in investigation.md in the apps directory. We're going to stop there. This is actually good to see for something pretty complex like this, running into where the agent loop seems to not catch the right stuff. I could continue hacking on it, but that might further destroy the whole thing, right? Like, I don't know if we actually did a step backwards or what our issues are there. And also for me, this actually starts to become a little bit unreadable. So those things are interesting. Like the one thing that's interesting, for example, is that it says, is ChatGPT false? I don't know what that means. Obviously, I want to have like a little bit cleaner logging, for example, so I could ask it to do. Oh, it looks like this guy has finished its VHS scripts. I could ask it to do a second log file with just a request, for example, to make it easier for me to look at, but also easier for the agent to get just the info they need. Those kinds of things, right? So I wrote 280 lines, and then this is now saved as this dude, and the most likely quick fix is updating the GitHub OAuth app callback URL, but the deeper issue may be GitHub's OAuth limitations versus ChatGPT's expectation. Here, the problem is probably going to be that Amcode didn't do the right research or thinks that it has the wrong thing. So at this point, we can add this this sorry, code, this investigation part, labs, command experiments, remote ChatGPT connector, right? And here we can say this, research what we could do about this investigation. I haven't played too much with O3 Pro, which might be an option. Here as well. Oh shit, I'm over 3 hours. Like I could continue forever doing this stuff, which is, I mean, that's how I get stuff built, but also that's how I lose my time at the end of the day. So I wonder if we go just for closure, go look at these GIFs that it created, then we'll do a big commit, and then we'll move on. So we have command experiments. You'll actually see what spaghetti projects look like. So this is just like a bunch of experiments that I did. But if you look at the apps that I did, and this is just like kind of the old vibes directory, because now all the stuff that Manus does is in a different repo because I just had too much. So it was not remote connector, it was command apps, add research, right? And then in demos, we should now have working things. Oh, Jesus Christ, it still hasn't fixed it. What the fuck? The VHS demos now current. That is so weird. Also, those are demo types. That's the newest one. It still fucking fails. That's so weird. I mean, it probably tried this in a Tmux demo and then the VHS used like the wrong directory. All right, anyway. Cool, good job. I should have added the binary to the ignore. Update, add research. I don't fully know in which state it's in right now. I'll clean it up next time. We do have command experiments, remote ChatGPT connector, which feels like it also has a binary in there. Yeah. Git remove cached. And it has this investigation. Remove chat completes to its own fixed callback. If the GitHub app lists anything else, the client lookups fails before you ever see a content screen. Edit the GitHub OAuth app settings so the single callback exactly matches the OpenAI value. But I did, right? Yeah. I wonder if ChatGPT remote MCP connector GitHub OAuth. Why does it connect all of this and then it's like so slow that I can't do shit? Holy crap, what is going on with this? So I wonder if we can just point it at an existing repo. Stop relying on GitHub is a plain OAuth 2.0 provider, and we do need 2.1, right? Yeah, so that might be the issue. Interesting. Okay. What do most people use out there for OIDC? When building ChatGPT MCP connectors. Maybe there's like a fancy startup. I mean, auth0, I guess, is that. What is Armanus doing? And then I'll log off. Armanus, creating a Go tool, has finished. Oh, that's not what I want. That's the thing from yesterday. Deep research. Expose and query tree sitter. Creating file, executing command. Holy shit, that's amazing. That is so cool. So that worked. That was like basically having the idea to implementation for the Manus workflow. That's also like kind of a pretty good thing to show. I'm not showing the cleanup. I did 3 hours of cleanup of, I call it like present unwrapping from agents yesterday. So you can go look at that if you're interested in all of that. What is the find command remote ChatGPT connector? Yeah, whatever. So this is the slop also. It can be like confused by directories here. Obviously, it's like a slightly confusing layout for a project because it has like 18 projects in there. Intermediate status with GitHub OAuth provider that might not even work at all with ChatGPT anyway. And we're going to push all of that, and that's where we're at right now. So what do people use? Hosted SaaS, generous free tiers, auth0 dominate tutorial because it's OIDC, blah, blah, blah. So that's cool. I'm actually going to update that. There, we do have some binaries in here. So that's not good. Actually, I don't know how to do this. It looks like we have heavy binaries in between our main and origin main because pushing is doing a lot of traffic. Find them. So this is a use of agents actually that is pretty interesting. Well, fuck it. Where I can ask the agent to do something, right? Like use its like interactive kind of flexible way of checking the history, see if there's like large binary files in my history, which is something that I do pretty often, right? And so as you can see, this is pretty slow. It's going to cost me like $1 or $2. And it's not all that useful, right? So is it all the GIF files? Here it had like errors, all of these kind of things that, oh, see the GIF files are like 7 to 6 megabytes. So we don't want to commit those, right? I don't think this Git repo was all that useful. So then I potentially want to have like the filtering of these these like binaries. Also see that it has like these elf binaries that I apparently put in without cleaning them up. So it gave me this, right? And I should remove them from the commit. It gave me like, this is pretty nice. It's kind of interactive, but this happens pretty often, right? And so what I can do now is, write an interactive Go tool using charm bracelet and some Go Git bindings in command apps, filter binaries from Git history that allows me to investigate default between origin main and main, display the resulting stats, then give me the option of selecting which files to remove from the history and rewrite the history to remove them, right? Use the top level Go mod, don't create a sub. Otherwise, stuff all the functionality in command apps. Why did I give it this stupid name? And split in command and pkg to make it nicely extensible. Next tool, which was bugging me, and then depending on if you're okay with a shell script, often just writing the shell script up front, because like kind of the model already knows what this is about, right? Like it knows each of the commands it needs to execute. There's not necessarily any kind of like runtime thing that could cause it to create like a different program at this point. So here I just said like, oh, I want to have like a go tool with charm bracelet, right? And then the intent that I have. I didn't specify anything else about the tool. There is a bunch of stuff in the AgentMD that tells it which frameworks to use, like Cobra, etc. But here, as you've already seen quite a few times now on the stream, this is going to work, right? And this is going to be a tool that I can reuse all the freaking time to clean up my elf stuff. So it's going to help me with my agentic coding workflow, because I can then tell the agent, just commit everything in the directory you just created and then filter it afterwards, which is going to be really accelerating as well, because then I don't have to fear asking for a commit every freaking time. I can just clean stuff up before pushing after that, and I'm fine with it committing like huge files. I can just do git add dot, which was, like the dangerous thing to do. All right, but I'm going to stop it here, because if we start waiting for even more agents to finish, then we'll never stop and I'll never get some sunlight, and I will just, I don't know, get score button something. All right.